How did you get this wonderful role?
I begged for it. No, it was just like any other audition. But when I read it, I knew that this was something special and it was something I had to be a part of. And so I auditioned first for the casting director, then for the creators, Amy and Dan. I thought it went terribly, but apparently it didn't. And then they brought me in again to read with Rachel Brosnahan, who plays my TV wife, and it went amazingly well, and I got the part.
Did you know it would be a hit?
Yes, I did.
Based
I did.
on?
Based on the script. The script was one of the best scripts I've ever read, and I knew the track record that Amy Sherman-Palladino had with Gilmore Girls. I knew she had a cult following, so I knew it was gonna have watchers, but I didn't know that it was gonna win all these awards right off the bat, and that was a surprise. But I knew that it was going to be an amazing show.
You do a lot of production numbers, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's something that also I didn't know was going to happen. When you read the pilot, I knew it was going to take place in the 1950s, so I knew that there was going to be some money in it. It's not cheap to turn New York into 1958, but I didn't know how big the show was going to become, and in terms of the scope of the show, I had no idea.
You shoot it all in New York?
We shoot most of it in New York. We've gone to some foreign locales. We went to Paris. This year we filmed in Miami, turned that into 1960 Miami, which also isn't cheap.
Oh, I lived there too.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just a big, grand kind of show.
All right, tell me about the character Joel. Right at the bat, is he the bad guy?
For all intents and purposes, yes. He's. I thought he was. When I first read the pilot, he is the antagonist. In the first episode, he cheats on his wife. He leaves her, and over the course of the show, though, he does redeem himself in a way. And I don't want to call him the villain. I kind of thought he was, so I sort of leaned into that in the first few episodes, but after the first season was 8 episodes, and in the 8th episode, he really has this kind of sincere moment with Rachel's character Midge, and then he really redeems himself at the end of that. He beats up some hecklers that had been causing her trouble, and after that, I was like, you know what? He's not the villain. He's just flawed. He's a human being, and we all make mistakes, and that's what I love about him.
Has the show developed the way you thought it would?
I don't ask Amy Sherman-Palladino or Dan Palladino. I don't ask them anything about where this character is going to go or where this show is going to go.
They don't tell you, do they?
They don't tell me, and I like to be surprised because I'm a fan of the show just as much as anybody else. I really am. I can't wait to read a script and find out where everyone's headed.
Do you know what's happening in season 4?
I have no idea. And people ask me that all the time.
When do you get the script for the first episode? When?
Oh, for season 4? I assume at least a couple of weeks before we start filming. They write as they go along. So
really?
Yeah, they do. So it's interesting because then, I don't think they have anything. I mean, I'm sure they have things planned, but I don't think that they necessarily know where everything's going. They'll maybe introduce a character and they like how that character's going. They see that character pops, when they're editing, and they're like, okay, we got to write this person in more.
What is it like playing opposite Rachel?
She's the best. She's just professional. She knows her lines. She shows up on time. She's a true leader, and yeah, I knew when I auditioned with her for the part, I knew that, she's going to be a really fun actress to play with.
Because?
Well, she gives you everything that you need to get out of a scene, and she's so talented, and she has such a range. She has such range, and I had met her years prior. We had done a reading of a play, and I just knew when I was doing this reading with her, I knew. I think she was 19 at the time, and I was like, "Who is this girl? She's incredible."
Have you ever tried stand-up?
No, never. I will never. being myself is scary enough. I don't need to to get in front of an audience. You
The
know?
Jewish family is a central part of this show, right?
Yeah,
You're Jewish.
I am. Yeah.
Does that make you more comfortable in it?
Yeah, a little bit. I know that world. I know these people. I grew up with these people. So yeah, like I said, when I read the pilot, it was something that I was familiar with. I just understood this world.
Co-star Brian Tarantino passed away.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was hilarious, and I loved talking with him because he was a prolific actor. I mean, he did a ton of theater back in the day. He was in the original production of Bloxy Blues with Matthew Broderick on Broadway, which is one of my favorite shows. I'm a huge Neil Simon fan. So just talking with him, I'll really miss that. And we talked about Yankees constantly. He was a huge fan, and he would.
You too, a Yankee?
Oh yeah, big Yankee fan. My parents are from the Bronx, so, and he would record. He would record the Yankee games when we were filming. He would record it, and I would go and check the score, and I would tell him, and he'd get so angry that I was telling him.
Your grandparents were Holocaust survivors?
Yes.
Did they talk about it a lot?
You know, my grandmother, who's still alive, she's in her 90s. My grandparents lived in the same town that I lived in growing up in New Jersey, so that was really special. And my brothers and I used to sleep over at their house a lot, on weekends, so my parents could go out. And my grandmother always, like bedtime stories were Holocaust tales, but it was on her side it was all good because she escaped with her family. She was from the Ukraine, and they hid in the woods, and so it was all good. My grandfather, he lost pretty much all his whole family, so he didn't talk about it all that much, but I know why.
Lenny Bruce, who was in the show, the character plays him, of course.
Yeah.
Lenny used to do a bit where he said you loved going to your grandparents' house. One, because they felt good. When they held you, felt better than when anybody else held you. Only problem was they went to bed too early.
Well, I was a kid, so but my grandfather loved TV. He loved TV. So we used to watch The Golden Girls. We used to watch, he loved Archie Bunker. Loved Archie Bunker. Steve Urkel he loved for some reason. So I think that sort of contributed to my love of TV as well.
When did you first get the acting bug yourself?
I can't remember a time when I didn't have it.
Really?
Yeah, I swear I've always wanted to be an actor, which is very lucky. I think, I have friends now who still don't know what they want to do. So I've known that this was my path for forever.
You got a big break from David Letterman on The Late Show. How did that happen? What happened?
I auditioned for this character named Dwight the Troubled Teen. I was 23 at the time, but I was, usually playing teenagers. And yeah, it was a whole bunch of kids, and we were all auditioning for this part at the theater, at the Ed Sullivan Theater. And it was after he had taped a show, and they brought all these kids in, and they whittled it down, and I auditioned for the writers. It was like down to 4 of us. I auditioned in the writers' room, and they chose me, and I thought it was a one-time gig. I needed money to do things like eat.
How often did he appear on Letterman?
I was on it like every week. I was on it for.
You would do bits every week?
Yeah, it was like a sketch with Alan Coulter, who was the announcer, and we would do a silly little skit towards the end of the show, and it became. I mean, that's how I was able to survive in New York for at least a couple of years.
Was David always nice to you?
I didn't talk to him that much. He kept to himself mostly, but a couple of times I ran into him backstage, and he would say, "Hey, Dwight," but it was. It was his call. Like I wouldn't have been on the show if he didn't want me to be there. So
now, you've been in other shows like Boardwalk Empire, The Sopranos. What was it like to work on that show?
Sopranos. That really was my first, other than Letterman. That was like my first real TV gig, and it was incredible. It was a dream come true because I was such a fan of the show, and my parents were such fans of the show, and so I think it really made them see that this was something, that I could do, and this was a career path that maybe was the right decision.
Now, you're part of a sketch comedy group, the Hotties Galore
Yeah.
in New York City. What do
Yes.
you do with them?
Well, we used to perform. I started a sketch comedy group in college. I went to Skidmore College, and I started a sketch comedy group there. I didn't get into the improv group, so I said, well, I'll just start my own, and that was really it was a great lesson in, you know, if something doesn't work out, just do it yourself. And in that group, the Sketchies is still there today. And then when I graduated college, I came to New York with a bunch of friends, and it was, you know, it was really an excuse to get on stage and perform and play these different characters and get better as an actor.
You said you went to Skidmore.
Yeah.
Every time I think, what is special about Skidmore?
Well,
I've heard about it all my life.
yeah. Well, it was an all-girls school.
Girls' school, that's right.
And the ratio is, I think it's 60-40, girls to guys, so that's pretty special.
Where is it?
It's in Saratoga Springs, New York.
Near the track?
Near the track, yeah. So it's a beautiful town.
Yeah,
You know,
beautiful.
it's absolutely gorgeous town, and it's a great school. It's you know, it's a small liberal arts school, and there aren't really there's sports. There are sports, but it's not really the focus there. I think the arts are really the focus, and I don't even think I knew that going into it. But they love comedy there too. They love their comedy, and now there's like five comedy groups there, and when they perform, people come out.
Great summer vacation.
Oh
spot.
yeah.
All right, how long can this show run?
I hope forever. I'm realistic though. I know it's going to end at some point, so I don't know. I mean,
8 years?
it's up to them. It's up to Amy and Dan. I don't know.
What are they like to work with?
Amazing. They're amazing. They're geniuses. Their writing is incredible, and they work together just so flawlessly. They don't argue. I've never seen them argue. You know, which is rare for a married couple. But if they do argue, they don't do it in public.
Never miss a beat. Subscribe to Larry King Now and watch new episodes every day.